Okay, this is a 1985 300 SD. I've had it for about a year. I've done quite a bit to it. And there's quite a bit to talk about, especially in the engine compartment. I suggest if you're ever going to buy one of these, to spend a lot of time just, looking at the engine, see what's going on, because there's quite a bit going on here. These engines or these cars used vacuum systems to do a lot of control. So some of it's that you're looking at, especially over here. There's a lot of vacuum lines and all that stuff. And then over here we have the air intake, and under that the turbo and the engine, and we have the injection pump in here and the oil filter, and that's the cruise control and the power steering pump. And we got some hoses, that's the ABS, and we got some more what I really don't know, which is mystery lines that are vacuum lines. Of course, there's some brake lines in there too. So if we go into a little bit more detail of kind of what we're looking at here on top, the cool thing with these cars is, first of all, the hood opens almost 90 degrees. Let me see if I get the side of it. See how open it is? Most cars it's like there, depending on what you have. So this car was meant to be worked on, which is what I really like. So if something else that's unique is there's two firewalls. If you look here, there's this firewall here, and then back here there's another firewall. So in this first firewall section, we have the battery, and this is the windshield wiper reservoir, and we have some electronics here, and the heater core plumbing comes in, and here over there you got the brake booster and the fuse panel. On the front side we have the engine, the main power plant of the whole car. So right here is the reservoir for the radiator. We have some wiring here, get more detail later. Access to the, that's the spring, this front suspension, and the shock mount. Here we have some vacuum lines that I really don't know what they do. There is the alarm for the car alarm, which no longer works. Up here we have the air filter and intake, which just comes in from like right there. It goes in, and there's then there's the intake actually down below, and that's the turbo. Of course, we have the breather hose for the valve cover, and behind the engine we have the dipstick for the transmission. This hose coming out here is a return hose from the heater core. It goes from rubber to steel. It goes under here and it goes back into the water pump, which is down in here, and it's tough to see it. The water pump is driven off is right here, so I'll try my best to show it. So what we have going on here on this corner of the engine is we have the bottom hose from the radiator, the top hose from the radiator. Inside this right here, this is temperature sensor, is the thermostat that's like in this housing. Down under all this stuff is the alternator, so it's like right there under this stuff. That's the pulley for the bar pump. We have the exhaust gas for the intake, which I have disabled. Then we have the valve cover. So this is a valve cover. The timing chain is actually just under here, and we have some other, let me get to it a little bit closer here. This linkages for the transmission. This goes down the transmission, kind of helps it so it knows when to change gears. How that works, not 100%. Then we have some linkage here that goes to the cruise control module, and then we have more linkage that goes down. This right here is the gas pedal, so when you give it gas, it actually rotates this lever, which in turn moves everything, and moves this lever down, which is the injection pump. So this here we have 5 hard lines, which go up to 5 injectors. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 injectors, so it's a 5-cylinder diesel. In behind this here, this is the heater hose. This is actually the supply for the heater core for the heat. Here's the oil filter. Oil filter is it's like a cartridge style. So you open this up, there's oil in there, and you remove it. In behind, we got some vacuum lines, which I really don't know what they do. More vacuum lines, and then here in the front we can check the oil, the dipstick. This black line here, which, just interesting note, you know, when I first saw this, I looked at this, I'm looking at this hose, and I'm like, why is it narrow and then it gets fat and then it gets narrow? I thought that there's something wrong with that hose. There's nothing wrong with that hose. You can see I changed it. I bought a new one, and the new one was just like the old one. And so it's normal. So this hose, and I don't know the exact reasoning why, has a larger diameter in the middle versus the 2 ends. Now, this being a diesel, and some gas engines have this, but if we look at, we have 2 lines. Maybe it's better if I get from this side. We have 2 lines coming from the gas tank. They're steel lines. There's this top one which goes into this fat hose, and there's another one down there which is is the intake. So this fat hose is the return line, and the bottom one, you can see it comes into this filter here. That's the intake. That goes into a primer pump, and then it comes over, and it's tough to see. I apologize. It comes up, and there's a spin-on filter here, and it goes through and comes down, and it goes into the injection pump. So the base is return. That is supply fuel. Now on the engine, you know, your supply, high pressure supply, is the steel lines. Each injector, if you notice, has a rubber with a cloth. It's like a cloth outside, and it's a rubber hose. You see it goes from that one, then this one connects to that one, and then that one, and it dead ends. And those all feed back to this connection here, which is the return back to the fuel tank, and that connection there. So that's what that is. So your fuel system on this car, there's actually 3 filters. We only saw 2 of them. The first filter is actually, there's a screen filter on the gas tank. That one rarely gets changed. 2 very important filters to change every so often is this pre-filter and the screw-on filter right here. So that's the fuel system kind of in a nutshell. So as we work our way over, you know, I guess in front of the fuel filter, this is a hydraulic steering, a pump. You can see the belt is attached to it. This unscrews, and there's oil inside there. I won't take off yet. And then looking at just the radiator real quick, because I forgot to mention something, is the radiator there's 3 parts to it, or there's 2 parts to the main radiator. There's your main radiator, and then right here is the transmission oil cooler, which is part of the main radiator. And then if you have air conditioning, which all cars did, you have this electric fan, And there's this front radiator, which is separate for the air conditioning portion of the car. Here's the plumbing. Here's the plumbing for those right there. Fortunately, it doesn't work on this car, so it doesn't do anything. So something else that you might be asking what it is under, next to the power steering pump, kind of under this hose, is the vacuum pump. So like I said in the beginning, this car uses vacuum lines to do a lot of things. Now, a diesel engine doesn't pull vacuum like a gas engine. Typically on a gas engine, you can, on your intake side of the the intake manifold, you can have, that's where you pull vacuum to run like your brake booster, and if you have a carburetor that, you know, with an advance on it, use the vacuum. Well, the diesel engine has to have a vacuum pump, and the pump is very important because it runs all these accessories, including, you see this big line here. This is a vacuum line. This is really the only one that I know what it does. Comes up here and it runs your it goes to a lot of different things, but mainly runs your brake booster here. See, this is the main line, and it goes to, well, your controls in the dash. You know, if you want your heat to blow up towards the windshield or down at your feet, you know, it activates the levers, the louvers, and all that stuff. And then there's some other emissions things it does. The locks in the car, those locks you push down, that's all vacuum. That operates by the vacuum system. I haven't messed with the vacuum system so much, so that's all I know. So here, what we got going on here is vacuum lines, miscellaneous things, electrical, brake lines. This right here is the module for the ABS brakes. What I have here, normally there'd be another module for the glow plugs. That module is automatic and operates the glow plugs automatically based on the outdoor temperature and the temperature of the engine. The one I had stopped working. I ended up putting in a relay that with a button inside the car where I can manually activate the glow plugs however long I want to. And then as we come up here and we're at the front of the car, you know, headlights, bumpers, the horns, two-tone horn for blowing people off the road with noise. They're very noisy, they are.